everybody to GLOBEBUSTERS.
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
And welcome everybody to GLOBEBUSTERS. We are on season 9, episode number 14, and the show is entitled "What Causes Wait?" So obviously, a heavy discussion today. How about that joke? Huh? Welcome to the show. We've got myself here, Jeran from Jeranism. Thank you for joining us. Sorry about being tardy. Should be 12 p.m. Pacific.
Not valid. Not valid. You can't start. You cannot start with you.
It's not allowed.
No, it's not valid, man. You need to wait until the end.
Let's do it again.
Don't be so.
Welcome everybody to GLOBEBUSTERS, the one and only show where you get Jeran Landucci for 3 hours, and it's basically his show. We're gonna rename it. We're gonna rename it. It's just gonna be called Jeran Landucci's show, the Jeran Landucci Show, starring Jeran Landucci.
Okay, well,
welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. Thank you. You cannot give the welcome to my own show, so that's invalid.
It's not
again,
valid again. Invalid
it's not
again.
valid again.
There's a lot of invalids going on.
No, thank you so much. You know, I like to break up the ice with you, Jeran. You are the clown.
Yes.
Sorry.
And we are friends, even though people think that we don't like each other for some reason. That's what I always say.
Yes, best. I can say best friend.
My best friend? Wow. Oh, I feel good now.
Best. You are in the top five.
Oh, top 5. All right, I'll take it. We've also got Zack. Good times for all. Zack, how's it going, my friend?
Jeran, Iru, how are we doing, gentlemen? Yeah, doing good.
Good, excellent. And then we've got myself. And there you go. Now I input myself last. Are you happy? And we've also got a special guest joining us. You guys might know him. Maybe some of you don't. And that's Brian Leakey. He runs the Flatter Tests YouTube channel. Brian, how's it going today? All right, well, that's a good start. Maybe you're on mute.
It's going good.
There we go.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, we got you now.
I'm excited, man. That's a fun topic we're going to discuss today, man. I appreciate you inviting me on, and I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, so it's one of those topics that is obviously quite divisive in the community. I don't think it needs to be, as I've said many times before, but I think that what Brian's going to do today is, Brian, what do you think that there's about 5 different options? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I put it down to 5, maybe 5.5, but the globe actually defaulted, and I'm going to show that later on, how they defaulted. We can discuss it, but there's a lot of good options, man, and they all work really well against the globe.
Okay, so let me see. Are you going to be sharing your screen, or what do you want to do as far as introducing these 5 options and then going through each one?
I sent you 2. If you want,
You sent him to Telegram, or where did you send him? Okay, I see 2 videos.
The whole thing and discuss it after it's done. The first one's the longest one.
Okay, so we're going to play this first video here. Let me bring it up. And just play through the whole thing, or do you comment through it?
I have a couple comments, but it's mainly, Zack's on there. A lot of familiar faces. Just it's a basic description of the different options.
Okay.
And just basically the introduction.
We'll play through it, and then if you need me to stop, if you want to comment, just say something and I'll stop. But we're talking about the first video that says "Cause for Wait" presentation for GLOBEBUSTERS. That one, right?
Yeah, is it like 14 or 15 minutes?
Yeah, 14 and a half. Okay. So I'm going to start playing this one.
Okay. I labeled each section, RDD, and then electrostatic incoherent acceleration. If you want, you can stop after each one, or we could just comment on every one of them at the end. I'll leave that up to you, man.
Okay. Let's just get going, see how it goes, and we will go from there. Let me make sure you guys can see my screen. Let me share for you guys. 1 second.
Yeah, one more thing.
Yep.
What is informative? The second video is all the evidence for each one of them. So the first one's just kind of descriptive and informative.
Okay. Sounds good. Let me get this started here.
But necessary.
And do you guys see my screen or no?
Yes.
Okay. And you got this thing here. Okay. Here we go.
The cause of the movement and rate of acceleration, deceleration of discrete solid objects in fluid mediums. Density is defined as the mass per unit volume. Density is an intensive property of a pure substance, which means no matter how much you have of the substance, the density will always be the same. Whether you have 1 liter or 10 liters of water, the density of both volumes of water will be the same. Density is mathematically defined as mass divided by volume. The density of a substance is the total mass of that substance divided by the total volume occupied by that substance. The relative density of substances and how substances are observed positioned relative to each other. A number of other factors must be taken into account. Liquids and gases are fluids and hence flow. Solids do not. The state of matter of substance at a specific temperature will influence its position relative to another substance. The type and strength of attractive forces between the particles of a substance compared to another substance will influence the position of the two substances relative to one another. This topic has a number of possible situations, each needing its own definition to avoid confusion. These definitions are based on a discrete solid object being in a fluid medium. A discrete solid object will be taken as an object with a definite volume and shape, with component particles close together and fixed into place. A fluid medium will be taken as a liquid, mixture of liquids, a gas, or a mixture of gases. A discrete solid object that is suspended in a pure fluid medium is in relative density equilibrium with the same pure fluid medium. This is because the discrete solid object and the pure fluid medium have the same densities as each other. Pure, as in consisting of only one substance. A discrete solid object that is suspended in a heterogeneous fluid medium solution is in relative density equilibrium with a certain section of the heterogeneous fluid medium solution. This is because the discrete solid object and that certain section of the pure fluid medium have the same densities as each other. Relative density equilibrium arrest. A discrete solid object that is being prevented from moving through a relatively more or less dense fluid medium it is in by an external agent is termed as being in relative density equilibrium arrest. The man has picked the keys off the floor and is holding them above the floor. The keys are surrounded by the fluid medium of air. The keys are in relative density equilibrium arrest. The helium balloon is stuck in the branches. The helium balloon is surrounded by the fluid medium of air. The helium balloon is in relative density equilibrium arrest. It is the action and subsequent discontinuation of action or non-continued action of the external agent that causes the movement and direction of the discrete solid object through its fluid medium surroundings. But it is the density of the discrete solid object relative to the density of the fluid medium that it is moving through that will determine the rate of acceleration or deceleration of the discrete solid object. It has been shown that it is the action and subsequent discontinuation of action or non-continued action of the external agent that causes the movement and direction of the discrete solid object through its fluid medium surroundings. Cause, action, or discontinuation of action by the external agent. Effect, moving object away from or towards the ground. Reversely, no cause equals no effect. No external agent equals object doesn't move away from or towards the ground. Final summary. It has been shown that it is the action and subsequent discontinuation of action or non-continued action of the external agent that causes the movement and direction of the discrete solid object through its fluid medium surroundings. The density of the discrete solid object relative to the density of the fluid medium causes the rate of acceleration, deceleration of the discrete solid object through the fluid medium. There is no contradiction or mismatch between what has been proven and validated by the scientific method and Newton's laws of motion.
First, we will observe the magnetic field when the magnets are all lined up.
Okay, we can stop there. Brian, do you want any comments from there, or anybody have any comments at the beginning?
No,
Yeah, that was probably the longest.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, Zach. I'm sorry if these are condensed. So any editors, any authors out there, sorry if you think I
no
didn't do
worries,
it.
man. No.
This is the most informative part. I feel like it's necessary, and these are the longest two, and then it gets down to some pretty cool nitty gritty. So it's going to get better. Just listen and learn. And I don't want no straw man. We'll keep it honest. We'll keep it above the belt.
So just so people know kind of what we're getting into, can you name the 5 so that they know which ones we're going to be covering today? Brian, are you there?
Yeah, that's it. You can carry on if you want.
Yeah, no, what are the 5 different options that we have so that people know which ones we're going to be covering today?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you have. So this is number 1 was relative density disequilibrium.
Okay.
Okay. Number 2 is incoherent electrostatic acceleration.
Okay.
Number 3 is an upwards acceleration.
Correct.
And number four is an upward motion, just a constant motion. And like I said, number 5 was the globe. I think we could just discuss that. The videos would have probably got long, but what I do is I pin each one of them against the globe, and after I define them all, and then show demonstrations for all. And so, yeah, man.
All right, sounds good.
It's gonna get good. It's gonna get good, man.
Let's continue.
And coherent. As you can see, the more magnets we align pole to pole, the stronger the magnetic field gets. However, this is the complete opposite when the poles are not aligned. As you can see, the more magnets we add to our incoherent mass, the weaker the magnetic field gets. Now let's take a look at how a coherent object, the cylinder magnet, interacts with the large incoherent mass of magnets and ball bearings. As you can see, the red pole of the magnet is attracted to the mass, so we might assume that the bare pole of the magnet would repel. Yet this is not the case. As I flip the magnet over, the bare end is also attracted to the mass. So how does this relate to what we are calling gravity? Like gravity, incoherent magnetism is an attractive-only force. No matter which pole of the magnet is placed near it, the incoherent magnetic field is always attracted and never repelled. All matter is made up of charged particles, and like magnets, these particles have poles. The Earth and everything on it is ultimately a huge mass of charged particles. This is why everything is attracted towards the Earth. There are a few apparent exceptions to this rule, like helium, balloons, and rain clouds.
I will try in this video to explain how incoherent electrostatic acceleration works while using examples that can be recreated by anyone. To start out, we will take a look at Earth's electrostatic field. This is important because we, along with all the matter in this known realm, are inside of an electrostatic field. The Earth itself has a measurable negative charge compared to the air above it all across the plane. As soon as you leave the surface, there is a positive charge in the air around you that grows in electrostatic potential the further you go up towards the sky. It is a steady, gradual rise in potential, which tells us, according to the laws of electricity, that we are between two Gaussian surfaces. A Gaussian surface is simply a surface that encloses or distributes a charge. If there were only one surface, the rate at which the positive potential grew would be different. Knowing that we are between two Gaussian surfaces, we can also know that certain phenomena will take place in all matter within the electric field, or area between the two surfaces. For this topic, we will first look at polarization through electrostatic induction. Electrostatic induction is a phenomenon where the positive and negative static charges on matter are slightly separated or polarized due to the electrostatic charge of its surrounding area. If one set of the object's surroundings is positive and the other negative, the negative charge on the object will be attracted to the positive area around it, while the positive charge on the object will be attracted to the negative area on the opposite side. So here on Earth, the positive charge on our bodies is always attracted down towards the Earth, and the negative will be attracted to the air above. This phenomena creates a slight force in that downward vector, because as soon as we leave the ground, we start becoming positively charged by the air around us and are now forced towards the negative of the ground. This is electrostatic acceleration. One might think that the attraction from above and below would cancel out completely, but it is the electrostatic gradient that creates a flow from the positive above to the negative below. Think of the Earth as a flat strainer, and there is a constant flow of water from above, moving very slowly, always applying a force in a downward direction. this would be considered a vector. The electrostatic potential difference getting stronger as you rise from the Earth will keep a steady pressure from above at all times until it reaches the Gaussian surface above. When we reverse the polarity of the electric field and put a negative surface above a positive one, we can reverse this electrostatic phenomenon and get things to stick to the upper plate as if it were the ground. This works with all types of matter.
Density and buoyancy is an expression of, it's like an effect that sets in when force is applied to matter. Then the matter starts rearranging itself within the body to which the force is applied in accordance to density and buoyancy in the form of pressure, in which also weight is expressed, by the way. And the density and buoyancy sets in accordance to the forces being applied. So if there is a motion upwards, an accelerating motion upwards to a body of matter, for example, things will be pushed down. If there's an accelerating motion sideways, then the heavy will be pushed in opposition to the direction it's going in, and the light will be pushed in the direction it's moving in. All these types of effects are very obvious. They are absolutely crystal clear. They are universal, and they always work. No.
If somebody claims acceleration happens, right, and in any given case, we can see that with gas and liquid, and any motion that we apply to it, we get displacement of the gas in the liquid. Now, if I was to hold this here and I was to let it go, right, people are invoking that this thing moves through space. Right? When I let that go, it's being claimed that this moves through space. So this is being claimed to accelerate, to move, motion. What have we established? If somebody claims motion happens, we need something that pushes on it. Right? No such thing as pull. Only push. Pressure makes stuff move. So if this was to be accelerated in any direction, we get displacement of the gas in the liquid. In reality, when I let this go, there is no displacement. So acceleration, if I accelerate it in that direction, the liquid moves to the back and the air towards the direction of acceleration. So here, if somebody's going to claim this accelerates downwards, then this moves to the top and the air should move to the bottom. That's what happens in the case of acceleration.
This means it is not true that no experiment can distinguish between a uniform gravitational field and acceleration. At last, we can establish a test for true motion. Here's how. If there exists some local switch we can find to make a gravitational field in our immediate vicinity instantaneously vanish, then we know that, in fact, this gravitational field cannot have been real, and that previously we had been undergoing true motion. In the case of the car, the switch is the accelerator pedal. In the case of the rocket, it's the firing of the rocket engines. Now, in a similar manner, let's ask, is there something we can do at the surface of the Earth to instantaneously switch off the gravitational field there? Because if we can indeed find such a switch, this will distinguish for us whether the force causing all objects to fall down is a real one, or rather, if it is merely an apparent one, caused by an erroneous judgment of motion from an accelerated frame of reference. It turns out there is such a switch. What is it exactly? Well, go to the top of a tall building and step off of it. The instant you step off the building, the gravitational field in your immediate vicinity instantaneously vanishes. You can prove this to yourself by performing the free body test for inertial motion as you fall. Just like the unaccelerated observer in the rocket ship, you will discover that, neglecting air resistance, if you toss objects off yourself while falling, these objects will float away with uniform motion. Carry a spring with you, it won't compress. Try to weigh yourself on a scale, and you'll get a reading of 0. According to Newton's laws, you therefore must conclude that your frame of reference is inertial, and that you are not accelerating. But if you aren't accelerating, this leaves one and only one logical possibility. It is the Earth that is accelerating towards you.
So we've got an object that's attached to Earth, and Earth's moving, right? Now the Earth's moving at its set rate, constant velocity, say, which would be, we'll say for talking to 1,000 miles per hour. So the Earth and this thing that's attached to it's moving 1,000 miles an hour. As soon as that's no longer attached to that, right, it's going to start a process of decelerating, it's going to get slower, right? And if it's no too far away from the surface of the moving reference frame, then as it comes off, there's a slight impact, right? Slight impact, because it's not had a chance to decelerate, right? It's still moving relatively, quickly in regards to the reference frame, it's not going to lose that much of its speed. Right? I mean, these things are just basic physics. If I'm now standing up here, you know, again, we're looking at this as if we're vertical. Now if I'm standing up here and I'm holding this out here and I let it go, right, then it's going to start its deceleration process. It's going to get slower and slower and slower, and the Earth would come up and hit it harder, right, because it's got a bigger gap, there's more time for it to decelerate. If it's out here, you know, and it's just gone the same rate, right, like if I had a craft that was moving at the same rate, then that's what would happen. But when I step off of here or I drop something off of this, it begins a process of decelerating as this moves continually at its same speed. So as it's getting slower and slower, this is just going to come up and hit it with more impact. If you were witnessing that, it would give you the impression that this thing was getting faster and faster and faster.
As soon as I let go of my phone, there's not going to be any acceleration. It'll immediately drop to 0. Not when it reaches the top of the peak and then comes back down, but actually right when it leaves my hand. So you can see that long drop in acceleration there. That went exactly to 0 Gs as soon as it left my hands. So what that means is if you just throw something up in the air or just drop it, as long as there's nothing touching it, it'll just register 0 G, so it won't feel any downward pull on it. For example, the only reason that you feel like you're being weighted down and pulled down is because the ground is actually pushing up on you. If you didn't have a ground pushing up on you, then you wouldn't feel weighted down. Now, a little caveat to this is to remember that when you're falling on Earth, usually in the atmosphere, you're falling through air. And if you're falling through air, then that air is hitting you and it's pushing up on you a little bit. So you are actually feeling a little bit of gravity as the air is pushing on you. In fact, the interesting thing about air pushing up on you is when you reach your terminal velocity, when you're falling through the sky and you're not accelerating anymore, that's when you've reached your terminal velocity. Actually, the air is pushing up on you with as much force as you'd feel as if you were just laying on the ground. So you pretty much don't feel weightless anymore once you reach your terminal velocity. So when you fall out of the sky skydiving, you don't actually feel weightless.
Okay. Let's see here. Do you want me to go ahead and start the second one now, or do you want to comment?
If any comment, that might have been a little excruciating, probably certain parts for certain people. But me, I'm going to represent each one of them as best as I can. I do have some answers that I don't think people have heard or possible answers. I'm going to represent each as best as I can. And I think everybody's going to get a kick out of how they all just demolished the globe in their own fashions.
Okay, I like it. This will be good to go through. So this is something I haven't really seen done on other channels or other shows where they're actually going to, we're going to try and represent everything without straw men and to actually tell you what the belief is, the thought is, and then we'll match with which one better forms to reality. Zach, I had a question for you. In listening to the incoherent dielectric acceleration portion, I heard them talking about how there's this electrostatic gradient, and it made me start thinking about, as I've often said, we know that high pressure goes to low pressure, right? And we don't hear people complaining much about this one or asking, well, why does it go one way and not the other, which we get with gravity, right? You always get people, well, why doesn't everything go up? Why doesn't everything go to the side? Whereas with this pressure thing, we understand that, high pressure goes to low pressure. So isn't it true that, is there a force that moves things from high pressure to low pressure?
Well, yeah, if you listen to what Walter Lewin says, yeah, I mean, even electrostatics is causing the wind. I mean, on very small scales, like on my Van de Graaff, I can create ionic wind. If I put a nail on there and really focus the charge at one point. But like when you're talking about a big, huge system, a high pressure system will be denser, therefore it'll have a higher electrostatic potential to it. So it's all like hand in hand. Since you have a higher pressure system with more mass there, it's going to have a higher potential charge. So it's still seeking out that lower potential charge.
So there's no such thing. If I were to I'm just typing into Google right now. Okay, there is. So there's something, I just typed in pressure gradient force, just because I wanted to know if there was anything even, if that's even a word. And it is. It says pressure gradient force directed from high to low pressure. The change in pressure measured across a given distance is called a pressure gradient. The pressure gradient results in a net force. that is directed from high to low pressure, and this is called the pressure gradient force. So I'm just in my head, I'm thinking right now, I'm like, wait a second. So we allow there to be a force between high pressure going to low pressure. The fact that there is a gradient is what then causes them to say that we can call that the pressure gradient force. So I'm just wondering why we can't just flip that and say that with gravity it's the same. It's an electrostatic gradient force, which is measured across given distances. It's called we'll call it a electrostatics gradient. The electrostatics gradient results in a net force that is directed from, instead of from high to low pressure, we would say from either high to low potential, and this is called the electrostatic gradient force. I don't know.
Some people have an issue with it. They think there's not enough power there to hold things down or to move things.
Well, there isn't, right? The density is.
But no, the power it's immense. It's huge.
Right.
When I'm charging up a 1-inch pizza tray or a 1-foot pizza tray, and I charge it with my 150,000 volts, I can just get little tiny things to move. But now, if I took that charge and tried to apply it to 24,000 mile pizza trays, I wouldn't even come close to putting that same type of a charge because the surface is so much bigger. So, I mean, people say, oh, there's not that much power. A bolt of lightning is this electrostatic potential, just a fraction of it, a teeny tiny fraction of the electrostatic potential out there. And a bolt of lightning has got some power. It'll destroy it'll blow a tree up like it's nothing. You don't want to get hit by lightning. It's bad.
Thank you. That's all right.
But yeah, there's definitely enough power in this place electrostatically to do what it says it's doing. And
Gotcha.
Even the 2 plates that I have in the pizza tray, I don't even have an equivalent to what the Earth has. They say it's up to 300,000 volts over those, 24,000 mile distance.
Right.
And I may be charging it up to, with loss and things like that and transferring it through the wires, maybe 100,000 volts, maybe. And getting things to move that are scalably bigger than Mount Everest. So, I mean, the power's there.
And that is
for sure.
That point is definitely addressed by a guy who sounds just like you, in fact. But I wanted to say one other thing before this video starts is I feel like we could put all of these through the scientific method. I think Anthony does it strictly, which I commend. But I think we could do them all. It depends on what your dependent variable. If your dependent variable is a gradient, then we can manipulate the gradient electrostatically, or if we just say weight, or dense things falling. It depends on how you want to word it. But I think we can demonstrate weight relatively with relative density. We can demonstrate it electrostatically, and we can demonstrate it with acceleration. And the interesting one is Dell's claim of the constant motion, which I think I have an answer that is going to get some people thinking, man. And I'm not necessarily on board with that, but it's interesting as shit to me. And I think I'm going to,
yeah, that was definitely interesting when he said that it starts decelerating as soon as you let it go, which gives it more time to. That was interesting.
Yeah, I thought so too. So we'll look into that and these ones. And I just want to play this real quick because I've never even heard of this, and it just is helping my head. So this is what is the pressure gradient force? Because I think I remember asking that question a lot of, well, we just know that, high pressure goes to low pressure, and we know that hot goes to cold, and we know that, things go towards the earth. So I didn't know that they actually consider that a force when pressure moves. And because, again, it could be kind of considered the same thing. So let's just watch this real quick here. This is how
the pressure gradient force works. A pressure gradient is simply differences in pressure over a distance. And it is these differences in pressure that leads to the pressure gradient force, which is one of the fundamental driving forces of wind. To really understand how the pressure gradient force works, what you must know is this. Air naturally flows from areas of higher pressure to areas of lower pressure. To illustrate this, let us suppose that point A has a pressure of 1013 millibars and point B has a pressure of 997 millibars. Well, because the pressures are different, air will naturally flow from point A, the area.
See, what I guess I don't get, or what I'm concerned with now, is if we did this, what is the... Let me try and do it like this.
Yeah, it's opposite, you know, because our high pressure is down near the ground where the low pressure is up above our head.
Right, but how about with electrostatics? Isn't it the opposite?
Of higher pressure.
Well, yeah, I think the electrostatics is creating our pressure gradient in the gases.
Got you. Okay, we'll continue.
To point B, the area of lower pressure. Now, the greater the difference in pressure, the faster the flow of air will be. In other words, the wind will be even higher. In weather maps, you can see the pressure gradient by means of isobars, which are lines of same pressure. The closer the isobars are to each other, the faster the wind is in that particular area. And that's it. This is how the pressure gradient force works. For more videos like this, please subscribe.
Okay, we'll now get this one going. Any comments before we get going, Brian, or just go ahead and press play?
Yeah, you can hit play.
Okay, here we go. And then, who said something?
Keep going, I said keep going.
Okay, here we go.
I can observe my phenomena to be that some objects appear to float, some objects appear to sink, some objects will suspend in different mediums. My hypothesis is if I change the medium's density, the egg will move. Newton said if an object moves, a force is present. My null hypothesis is that if I change the density of the medium, the egg will not move. I will activate one of the hypotheses. My independent variable, my presumed cause that I must manipulate in an experiment, is the density of the medium. My dependent variable is the movement of the egg. I will also try and keep everything else constant. The volumes of water, not null change, just the density of the medium. We can tell that the density of the egg is equal to the part in the glass where the liquid is. What I'm now going to try and prove is that if I change the density of the medium, I will cause the effect by adding salt. So if I can change it, because I'm the experimenter and I'm manipulating my presumed cause, my independent variable is the medium, that egg moves, I've caused it. We know the parts per million is about 300. All we need to do is pour some of this in. Hey, what do you know? The eggs immediately moved. Didn't have to wait for that, did we? So what's the cause? Well, scientific method states that the independent variable is the presumed cause, and I presumed that changing the density of the liquid with salt would cause a displacement. Newton's first law of motion states that every object will remain at rest unless acted upon by a force, and I've obviously created a force. The density of the medium has displaced the egg. The egg moved.
Here's my 110-pound ironworking anvil. I think we got this for...
Do we need to keep going? Or any comments there? Go.
Making horseshoes and stuff, back when we had horses. So, I set it in here and see if it floats. Okay, it doesn't seem to want to stay upright. I'll just let it tip over. There it is. It's floating. Look at that.
The iron anvil floats because mercury has a density nearly twice that of iron. In fact, due to the density ratios, the iron actually floats better than wood does in water.
When I'm debating RDD versus gravity with globers and I bring up a helium balloon, they always bring up a vacuum chamber. What's going to happen to the helium balloon in a vacuum chamber? Well, let's give it a look.
Okay, helium balloons in a vacuum chamber. 3, 2, 1. Trying to turn it off right before they pop. Oh, that one fell. See? Stop floating. And... oh, they both fell. Look at that.
So I'm surprised globers even bring this up. Okay, so the pressure inside the chamber goes down, which makes the pressure inside the balloon go up. So it gets where it just barely can't support the weight of the balloon and it drops down. But shouldn't it be able to
levitating there? Shouldn't it ease down like the way it does in air if it's displacing the air? So this goes against the gravity buoyancy model. And even if the helium did go to the bottom, which it doesn't, this doesn't hurt relative density disequilibrium because a vacuum is less dense than helium. So in my opinion, relative density destroys the globe, but this is the version I've been arguing for the most lately.
When we reverse the polarity of the electric field and put a negative surface above a positive one, we can reverse this electrostatic phenomenon and get things to stick to the upper plate as if it were the ground. This works with all types of matter. You can move wood, iron filings, and even human hair with these forces. Believe it or not, you can even get water to bend. If the vector lines created between the two Gaussian surfaces are curved, all the matter will follow these field lines as well. In this demonstration, instead of using a flat plane, I use two circular objects as my Gaussian surfaces. You can see that as the water settles after being sloshed around by me turning the wheel on the Van de Graaff generator, it comes to rest with a curve in the surface following the electric field line. In this demonstration, I have a metal button hanging from helium balloons that keep the button buoyant just above the ground. By only adding more electrostatic potential to the button, you can see it will appear heavier and force the buoyant object down along the vector lines created by the electrostatic potential difference. Without changing the density of the medium or the object, one can change the overall weight, or gravitas, of the object. To do an actual experiment on the topic of gravitation, this variable of electrostatic acceleration must be taken into account at all times.
This one for me was the hardest to really even look at because I've been fighting against motion for years and constantly, but I wasn't really considering weight, so I can't say that I don't feel weight. And you know, you got Rachie and Dell put together some good demonstrations and good arguments, so I'm going to discuss it. I'm not going to get emotional. Hopefully everybody will follow suit. It's a good discussion.
Right now, this van and everything in it is at rest. And we're going to stay at rest unless we somehow accelerate down the road.
Right.
So that's what we're going to do.
Okay.
We've got a passenger here we've got Sarah in the driver's seat. Sarah, go ahead and just punch it. Floor us.
So we moved.
We moved. Okay. All right. Gentle stop, Sarah. And did you notice the balloon initially moved backwards?
It did.
Just like our bodies did, because we were actually at rest, but the van started to move and the seats actually collided with our bodies. Once the van caught up to us, then it started pushing us forward. So we're going to see what happens, though, if we put a balloon filled with helium gas in front of us. We got pushed backwards,
Yes.
essentially, but the balloon went forward.
It did. It went forward.
Goes forward.
Uh-huh.
Emergency stop. Quick. Goes back.
Pull
So
in there.
It's just a really nice demonstration of what happens when you're in an accelerated vehicle.
Okay.
There are these pseudo forces that appear. Like inside the vehicle, we feel like there's a force pushing us back.
Sure.
But for a person standing outside, they realize no, their bodies are at rest and the car is just slamming into.
So we observe the less dense objects go with the direction of acceleration. So this definitely destroys the globe's version of downward acceleration.
Wow. The duck is less dense than the water, and the water is pushing the duck up, which is making the spring stretch. As he lets go of the bottle, the upwards force that was pushing the duck up is now no longer there, and therefore the spring contracts. Again, he's holding the bottle, the nut, he's pulling down on the spring, which is making the spring stretch, because it's more dense than the water, so it's going down within that water, and it is making the spring stretch. And when he lets it go, we can see that now there is no longer any weight to that nut. The weight is now gone. Even though it's still more dense than the water, it's no longer got that downwards force on it.
So I believe this is Dell, and inside the container there's two objects. One of them floating that's less dense than the water, and one of them sinking that's more dense than the water. So on his final turn, he catches the two objects in transition and then drops them, and he's demonstrating how in free fall displacement no longer occurs. So no matter which of these you're arguing for, I doubt you'll agree with this guy's explanation, but I thought it was a pretty cool demonstration and it's short, so I included it.
Water is spraying out of the holes because gravity is pulling on the water, right? But if Einstein is right, if I drop this bottle, the water will no longer feel gravity, so the water should stop spraying out. So let's see it. 3, 1. What?
Have you ever wondered what would happen if you tried to fly a drone in an elevator? Well, today I'm going to try it out. And then we'll try it from the ground floor going up also. Okay, now I'm going to actually try to keep it balanced.
Going up.
Okay, here we go. It's all the way throttled. Oh, I can't keep it up even all the way throttled.
So if you'll notice, in the title I put potential constant upward motion evidence because with a question mark, because I'm not sure if the elevator is accelerating past takeoff, because I see that he can't get it off the ground, and so they could use this as an evidence if it's maintaining the same speed after takeoff. So maybe this is something we could reproduce.
That happen? I mean, most students of physics would know that all objects on Earth's surface should accelerate down at the same rate, 9.8 meters per second squared. But in this case, what happens is the chain actually whips the weight around, so it accelerates at a rate greater than the acceleration of objects when in free fall. That's a pretty remarkable result. I want you to think about the bend in the chain. As the weight descends, the chain goes from falling to becoming stationary, so it's accelerating up. The tension required to accelerate the chain up actually pulls down on the weight, accelerating it at a rate greater than the acceleration due to gravity.
So I realize I played this already, but it's just a little clip of it, and it's the last one. So also, I'm not sure if anybody knew this. I did not. And this is so thought-provoking. Like, this, I had to picture this in my head over and over, and I really wanted to discuss this, so I ended with it.
You're falling through air. And if you're falling through air, then that air is hitting you and it's pushing up on you a little bit. So you are actually feeling a little bit of gravity as the air is pushing on you. In fact, the interesting thing about air pushing up on you is when you reach your terminal velocity, when you're falling through the sky and you're not accelerating anymore, that's when you reach your terminal velocity. Actually, the air is pushing up on you with as much force as you'd feel as if you were just laying on the ground. So you pretty much don't feel weightless anymore once you reach your terminal velocity. So when you fall out of the sky skydiving, you don't actually feel weightless.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Very thought-provoking stuff. I hope everybody is hanging in there because there's a lot of important information here, and I think that this should help some people kind of iron this out a little bit. All right, Brian, what do you want to do next? Is Brian there? What did I do here? Let's see. Brian, are you there? Are you still here?
First, I'm going to unmute, man. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
I'm having trouble with it. I'm having trouble with this. But so first, I'm gonna unmute, and then. But have y'all ever heard of that? I'm just out of curiosity. Like, I literally never heard. I mean, of course, I've heard of wind resistance, but the way he made it sound, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you get the wind, and pretty much when you hit terminal velocity, that you feel. And that to me, like, just set my mind racing. Has anybody else heard that it feels like you're laying on your stomach, like you literally feel every bit of the weight, or is it just me?
Yeah, I've never heard that before. Yeah, I'm gonna have to ponder on that one. That's pretty wild. Because
I got to thinking, when we're talking about this constant acceleration, like the deceleration response was something. For me, it was like, okay, that's something of an explanation. I got to think of it more. It's maybe not 100%, but it's an explanation nonetheless. But then I was thinking, when I heard that, then I got to thinking about a constant acceleration in denser medium, like how just water. If we went 50 miles per hour without accelerating, and water itself, ain't going to register a constant weight on the scale. I mean, so it just linked me to one thing. So that's what made that thought kind of linked to another thought, which had me considering this as even a possibility. What are your thoughts on that? What do you think? A constant, if we put a scale in water, set it off 50 miles per hour, you think it would register a constant weight?
You're breaking up a little bit. It's kind of hard to understand what you're saying. You said if we put a scale in water? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, because a lot of the inside this argument, okay, the people who believe that it's a potential accelerating reference frame, and others argue that it, like Dell argues that it's a constant motion.
So can't we?
Me personally, I had to.
I'm just wondering, can't we eliminate accelerating because that can't possibly be the case? I mean, I understand the constant motion upward, but I don't understand the acceleration upward. Wouldn't that be constantly accelerating, meaning we're going faster now than we were 100 years ago, then 200 years ago, then 500? So now we're just going faster than the speed of light?
Yeah. Speed of light, I believe, within a day. I mean, if you want to get super technical, special relativity covers that, but I don't in a split second. But another option is if it's doing a big circle. This is just my personal thoughts. Like if this is happening and it's accelerating, or either doing a constant motion, it could be doing a constant speed, but doing a big ass circle. And then I was thinking, man, that might even help with a model, but I don't know. I'm kind of new to that. I'm just throwing that out there as far as getting, thought provoking. But Jeran, did you get the other two that I sent to Telegram?
Let me check. I think yeah. So you want to watch the third one now? Oh wait, sorry. One. Two...
Yeah, if you could play that short one, man. I'm in a chair.
Wait, there's you only sent me.
One is
you sent me 3 total, right?
4. If you see a 1 minute 13 second, or like just barely over.
I see the first one, which was the cause of weight, and that was the one that was sorry. The first one's the one that was 1454. We watched that one. Then the second one was this one, which was 1059. We watched that one, and then this is the third one. So I only got 3. The third one's 1:25. We want to watch this one?
Yeah, this is hilarious, man. I'm feeling charitable. I threw this in there because I actually watched this guy, and he's not like what I thought from hearing everybody else speak about these people. Like it's nothing like I thought. So this is just something. It's a quick one. I'll get the other one ready while you play that one. This is kind of funny.
When it comes to flat earthers' behavior on this subject of what causes weight or whatever you want to call it, I think we can all take a page out of Pete Svoyer's book from the Flat Earth Society, man. I think this guy is very intelligent, very mellow demeanor. I think he's cool as shit myself, man. Even if I don't agree with him. But I think he says it well.
He's one of the most ardent critics of the Flat Earth Society, and he's one of the people who constantly get on our case over universal acceleration and finds it to be the most ridiculous thing and keeps demanding explanations. But I appreciate him because he tends to maintain a very level-headed approach to arguing with round earthers. And I think that's most important. If he's a little bit aggressive with me, I absolutely don't mind. I can handle aggression. I'm sure you've seen me handle difficult situations on the forum. That is fine by me. But it's when we talk to those who don't necessarily agree with us, regardless of your position, that I think keeping it level, even if you're going to say, I disagree with you and I'm going to stop talking to you now, that is fine, as long as you've done so in a civil manner. And I think I would give him a lot of credit for that. And Stacey is quite similar. As per her name, she is a stationary flat earther. I'm quite sure that she disagrees with quite a lot of the stuff we say, but we have maintained cordial relations by and large. And again, I think that ability to disagree, but in a nice way, and to present information that supports your side without necessarily putting anyone else down is a quality that we would all benefit from.
Okay. Are you still here? You have any comments? Would love to hear your opinion so far.
Yes, I'm here. I always have the same feeling. I mean, I have that the weight, or how you want to call it. I think it's correct. It's like a property of an object for me, and of course you can measure. Or if you want to measure the weight, you need something to push against, and make all this. I don't know how to you call it, the balance to measure what we call weight. But in terms of the flat Earth, sorry, because maybe I don't explain myself quite well, because in English it's a little difficult for me to explain my point of view about this topic. But I always imagine like. And I did that simple simulation in computer just for illustration purposes. But I always imagine like, we can start the story based on that there was nothing, and suddenly an object appear, and we don't have any interaction of anything. Pressure or atmospheric pressure, no electricity, no magnetism, nothing. Completely what we call ideal vacuum. And we have this object there. Compounds with atoms, quarks, whatever you want to put it on it. And for me, nothing happens. It is going to be there and like a static object, like the same thing happened when you drop an object in the 3D space with 3D software. You need something, at least something, to make that object to start moving, independently of the orientation or the direction. And in the case of our world, first of all, I believe, and I think, like the same of Zack tell in the video, we are under and above 2 Gaussian plates. And in fact, I have an article talking about, like, for example, and this is from Regular Science, it said something like the only possible way to have a coherence and balance, quote unquote, electrogravity is based on those on 2 super giant Gaussian plates, where you are not going to have the idea of everything pulling to a center, because these 2 giant discs, one above and another below, is going to produce equal gravity, quote unquote gravity, in this electrofield, or I don't know how to call it. So for me, first of all, we have atmospheric pressure, so an object can, go down to the earth based on that first impulsion, and another thing on top, it's the electrocharge that this object has, and on top of that could be some other, some other dynamics that we have in nature. But the most fundamental for me, it's based, first of all, on these electric charges that every object has, and the conditions of what we call sky or cosmos and the earth. And in fact, I showed that so many times in the past, but I have a lot of videos of space agencies going up and going beyond the Karman line, and that something strange happened in terms of the self-orientation, because remember that they have something that they name it as microgravity. But that for me is like a condition where the object enters in this idea of Bose-Einstein condensation, where they say that the atoms lose their identity and they don't know they don't know anymore where they are and what they are. And for me, it's like not at the atom scale, because I don't believe in that type of scale, but when you reach certain point going up, you lose identity, but you lose orientation, because these sounding rockets are, it's like they are floating until they reach a barrier, a super small gradient, where they suddenly and they self-orient again, where is, the earth is below them and the sky is above them. But it's like the matter self-oriented again. And for me, it's because they are entering in some electric field again, and they communicate between the object and this field that we live on. But something happened out there. There is this microgravity. For me, it's like a microfluidity, because it's when you see it, it's like they are in a different state of some kind of different fluid. But maybe I hope nobody lose what we're trying to go. But for me, it's this idea of electric electrical force acting on our Earth based on the ground and the sky and beyond the weight of the object, because the weight is not something tangible. You cannot isolate a particle of weight. The weight is a result based on a method that the humans been invented. That is the way I'm seeing it.
Gotcha. Zach, any comments from here?
I agree with you. The ground accelerating up, I would be able to say, no, I don't see that. Now the constant moving up and the way he explained it, I'm going to have to do a lot more thinking on that. That was very interesting.
No, I didn't say that the ground is
No. He's talking about Del.
No, not you.
He's talking about
not
Del.
you. In the video.
Okay, sorry. No, for me, that's completely insane.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat that I just, one of the reasons for being a flat earther or whatever is just really recognizing my surroundings more and, respecting my senses more. And so I feel like if we're going to start talking about the Earth is moving, I mean, to me, the most clear thing in the world is that the Earth is stationary, that we're not moving anywhere. That seems to be patently obvious now. So, yeah, when I hear now that we're moving upward, to me, it wouldn't possibly make any sense because, again, even if you're a creator or whatever, you could create other ways of things staying on the ground or coming to the ground other than having to move the entire world upward, right? To me, that just seems like
I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm leaning this way or anything. I'm just.
And God is too lazy.
Since I heard it,
he's lazy. He's a lazy guy.
Like
Come on.
a little bit ago, since I heard that, I haven't been able to just disprove it with, logic.
No, and I guess it makes sense to me too.
I'm gonna have to think about it for a little while.
I didn't understand what they were saying when somebody mentioned to me that, oh well, the item actually decelerates, which is why to us it looks like it accelerates. I'm like, what? I couldn't grasp it. But when he had that little L, the builder's square, the corner, whatever there, and he was showing the item come off of that as the item was going up, then it made sense to me. Oh yeah, well the item that came off is going to immediately slow down, but to somebody on the ground there that's moving up, it would appear to be speeding up. So. Very interesting topic. Brian, what do you want to go to next?
If you want, I can share my screen.
Yeah, you want to do yours? Hero's going to share something real quick. Go ahead, Hero, and I will be ready for you. And where is this? All right.
Supposedly I am presenting, but it's just more for trying to put something on the table. Maybe a lot of people already know, maybe others don't. So my idea is just put this to, trying to add more in the mix. But what I'm talking about earlier was, for example, they have this state where, and that happens with all of the sounding rocket that reach or pass beyond the so-called karma line. So that is a condition that we have, at least to paying attention and trying to give some idea, some explanation, because the idea of microgravity is completely insane for me, because remember that in the concept of this sounding rocket works, this is just a parabolic trajectory. So the rocket is going to this is the ground, imagine this is the ground.
Hey,
so the rocket
just I have a phone call real quick. I'll be just 2 or 3 minutes. Just keep going. Be right back.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. So the rocket, it's firing up. It's reach around 6,000 kilometers per hour, but the trajectory is just like this. And when it reach the 120 kilometers, and before reaching that point, the rocket stop burning fuel. But when it reached this so-called karma line, the rocket just start this parabolic trajectory. This is the area where supposedly it take around 6 minutes, in this case, to be here in microgravity until when it coming back to the Earth. Until this point, the rocket just lose completely orientation. It's just, they use the yo-yo, the spin, trying to recover the orientation and stop this crazy spinning, which works. But it works in terms of this crazy spin that the rocket has at the beginning, because they use the rocket as an arrow, so it's completely out of control, if you want to see it that way. In terms of the visualization, if you're going to put a camera, you cannot take information with a spin of 1,000 kilometers in the revolution per minute. So they use the yo-yo the spin, they stop the spin a little bit, but in this part of the trajectory, the rocket start just floating, gently spin. In a moment you're gonna see it, but then it reached a point where the rockets enter not to the atmosphere again, because it's very high up. It still is like 80, 90, 100 kilometers, but you're gonna first of all you're gonna hear a sound again, which is some type of air sound, but it's gonna be like a super little gradient, and the rocket is going to, from to be completely out of orientation, is going to orient itself again and took again the correct orientation. So here something happened. For me, it's not anything about microgravity, because at this height the gravity, quote unquote, it's almost the same. It's not 9.8 square meter blah blah blah, but it's around 8.9. So it's the same thing. You cannot be 6 minutes floating because you are so far away on the supposedly speed of breaking the gravity of the Earth and blah blah blah. So let me just play the video very quickly. I hope my explanation understand. This is from. Wait a minute, because the video needs to load up here on PowerPoint. That is why you hear the sound without any video feedback. But let me just, this not 1 minute. I hope it's not 1 minute. Okay, here we go.
What was that?
That it's, for me, it's because and can you see the guy with the trombone? And that is all the passes through the gases, because this is part of the presentation of the exaflorar and all that stuff. I don't want to go again there, but that is because it's so fast that the rockets pass the last of the gases, noble gases, and it's they cannot produce any more sound or fuel or nothing, because it's nothing to keep burning and that kind of stuff. And that is like the last.
Oh, the nozzle, the last. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Okay, let me just wait until.
Sorry
because
about that.
No, it's okay. But the PowerPoint is reading from external hard drive, and the external hard drive has a bad connection. So now it's a little sound. Maybe you cannot hear it. That is the yo-yo, the spin. They stabilize, but of course it keep with some inertia. But they stabilize very well and keep ascending based on inertia. Now, that fade to black, it's not made by myself. That is from the official German Space Center. They don't show the microgravity. They just sometimes make a fade to black, or in other times they fade to black, but they put like a title saying this is 6 minutes of microgravity, and just that. But supposedly, because in that part of the video is where the experiments run, the experiments that are inside of the sounding rocket, well, they have some privacy policy, so they cannot show. And that is the official explanation. Okay, this is not invented by me. It's not a made-up story. So after the fade to black, they has supposedly, I think you can apparently read, but it said re-entry phase. Re-entry to what? Because in the NASA Hollywood experience, the re-entry is like a burning stage where, all the flames start, heat up the capsule and things like that. Of course, this is insane because it's just a parabolic trajectory where the rocket just moves a few 100 kilometers or less than where it starts. But this is the re-entry phase. So something happened here. It's like a cold re-entry phase. So now it's falling, but with some orientation. And then, sorry for the video feedback. Let me just rewind quickly. I need to copy this into my hard drive on the notebook, because if not, it's unsupportable.
It's not as smooth.
Yes, so here you have this. No, it's falling down. Oh, well. And now it's going to, you're going to see some water coming into the, and that is part of the explanation above. But look how it's turned. It's like, okay, and now, keep going like that and until the rocket reach the ground. So that happened. This is another rocket, for example, and that calls re-entry phase. And what I'm trying to say is that all these sounding rockets, when they pass that karma line, they are completely in a smooth operation. And then they have some re-entry phase. And when they enter, they start self-oriented and start having this, dynamics again, like you are again inside of the natural behavior of matter and electricity and magnetism, whatever. So now, I just showed this to take into consideration, because of course something happened up there, and there is some type of limit or some gradient or some condition out there that at least you need to take into consideration. This is just for illustration purposes, the little simulation that I made, like the rocket, get out of these conditions, and then in that so-called re-entry phase, it's just falling, and when you start, taking again with molecules of air or whatever, it start interacting again. Molecules of air, quote unquote, could be atmospheric pressure, could be electrostatic charges, whatever, that give some information again to the conceptual, identity of the matter that connects with the God creator of everything. I don't know how to name it. I hope you understand my point, but remember that we have all these, 20th century discovery of the superconductivity, superfluidity, and that temperatures we have up there, and start making or you need to put all this into the mix, this superconductivity and superfluidity, and that this only react with magnetism and electricity, and they don't take into consideration any quote unquote gravity, blah 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 blah. So I leave it there.
Thank you. Do you have anything else you could share if you want to? Here for about 5 minutes. I'm on the call with somebody who's helping me fix my water softener.
Yes.
Okay,
and remember, for example, what Eric Dollar talks about. So how can you, for example, how can you take out the idea of, and that for me is very important, because we cannot, in the ultimate goal, we cannot isolate all the variables and all the dynamics just to put an object, not floating, but suspended or whatever you want to call it, in the middle of nowhere, and start playing with that and start adding layers of dynamics and forces and things like that. In this street interview, Eric Dollar talked a little bit about the ether and the electricity.
Anything else, Robert? Is there a spiritual aspect to electricity or music? Yeah, but I can't define it right now. Yeah, but that's how it came about.
You don't talk much about your spiritual
Again, sorry for this.
view of things. And do you have one? Have you formulated one?
Well, I try to avoid those kind of things, but that's what all these books are about, so I have to use that terminology.
Right.
So I'm not quite prepared for that now, but I
So
will
you-
be when the time comes.
Yeah.
Would you say we live in an electrical universe?
Well, that's definite.
That's definite.
So, I mean, it's pretty well understood in 19th century that, you know, all this matter is really just an aggregation of electrical forces, and there is nothing solid. It's all electrical. That was all well understood up until the Einsteiniism set in and said there is no electricity.
That was 1905.
Yeah. Basically, Einstein and his followers, in their own way, said there is no electricity. And physicists suppress any activity of electrical. They don't want nothing to do with electricity. They have their little electrons, steel ball bearings, and their little, you know, material things, and that's it. That's as far as electricity goes. So physics has nothing to offer whatsoever to electrical engineering. Whatsoever. It's useless. Cannot be applied.
And let me just play this first clip because I get it from the first video.
I've never seen this one. Borders science and metaphysics. I mean, I don't know how else you can do it. But just let me ask you,
do you know when this was taken, Eru? When this video was made?
Yes. This was I found it at 2017, 2018.
Okay, yeah, I haven't seen it recently.
Yes, I have it full uploaded in my Rockfin channel.
I have a question for you that's borders science and metaphysics. I mean, I don't know how else you can do it. But just let me ask you, from what you know, do you feel electricity comes out of the ether, like in electrostatic or magnetic, through electrostatic or magnetic forces? Is that where it comes from?
Well, electricity is ether polarized into those things.
Polarized into those things. So if
ether's not there until you want it to do something. That's why it can't be. That's why they've never been able to identify it. It's like a genie.
Okay.
It's dormant. It's not there. It will not manifest itself.
Does it take human will and action to make it, or can something natural?
Nature seems to make quite a bit of it.
Okay.
Considering the sun's charged to 20 billion volts.
There you go.
The ionosphere, you know, it's probably got over 1.5 million volts on it.
20
right now. We're standing
billion
in 600 volts of it. Well, the atmosphere.
And I give my last presentation on the summit was based on that. And again, if you are under 1.5 million volts.
Yeah, 1.5 million.
Yes.
I didn't know it was that high.
Well, I mean, I respect a lot Eric.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
Eric Dollar. So I don't believe that he's, came up with that number based on fairy tales. But again, I mean, if you are in these conditions, and let me just, if you want, I play this clip it's around 1.5 minutes more, and then I play another one, and we can have some conclusions about that.
1.5 volts on it right now, and we're standing in 600 volts of it. Well, the atmosphere is the ether.
Okay.
And again, these interruptions is based on the hard drive.
Yeah, understandable.
Mechanical hard drive.
So it's like if there's no wind, you don't really know the air's there, kind of thing. Ether's atmosphere is analogous to the ether.
Okay.
But then the question is, does music influence the ether?
Yeah.
Like electricity. But that's the question, is how do these people make rocks float in the air, or, the walls of Jericho fall down, or whatever? And then there could be something beyond going on.
Well, I think
if the ether is influenced by sound as well as the atmosphere,
right,
then, that takes it to another level. Because the space itself is a musical instrument.
Sure.
And that's what these cathedrals, the way they're built, is perfect for that. It's like Alexander himself designed them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, it's just, semantics. I don't know how to say in English. And you already see this. This is for me the real language of God, not numbers. Is this based on geometry? Numbers are an invention of humans. That is why, in my opinion, this analogy that we live in under Solomon Temple, because it's the sol and moon and Om. Om is the sound, the light, and the shadows. And you can go with that first concept, but sol and moon temple is our world. It's not just a temple by two people in the Middle East trying to rebuild via Donald Trump. Now Donald Trump is going to build the third Solomon Temple. We are under already, man. We don't need any savior. And the other thing to at least take into consideration is, again, that this guy is Dr. Harry Cliff from the CERN LHC institution. Is a very well-known guy in physics or metaphysics also. And he's giving a lecture right in this video into the Royal Academy of Science. And he's going to talk about these little particles and the misunderstood, and how, it's like, okay, yes, in the beginning when we went into university, they talk about like particles, but particles never exist. It's just a made up story to trying to explain ourselves things based on electricity.
I need to ask a slightly deeper question, which is, what do I actually mean by a particle? So you could be forgiven.
And once again, I need to change my hard drive to something more ether hard drive than the mechanical one. Sorry. One more moment.
And I'm back. So yeah, broken.
Okay.
Sort of the way I've described this, I need to ask a slightly deeper question, which is, what do I actually mean by a particle? So you could be forgiven. The way I've described this to you in the last few minutes, you could get the idea that maybe these particles are somehow like little Lego bricks, or they're a bit like the Victorian atoms. They're sort of solid little points that move around and stick together. But actually, that's not what modern particle physics tells us particles are. In fact, particles aren't really what matters at all. Our field is kind of badly named in a sense. What actually we think of as being fundamental are not particles, but fields. So field, we've all probably, if you've ever held a magnet next to a piece of steel or iron, you felt the effect of a field. So a field is something that can cause, for example, a force to be exerted over a distance where there's no physical stuff actually causing that force to be exerted.
No physical stuff.
What modern physics says, actually, this kind of discreteness of matter, the sort of atomic nature of matter, is actually not really fundamentally there. The fields themselves are continuous, and it's just that if you want to put some energy into the field, there is a minimum amount of energy you can put in to make a ripple. You can't make one that's smaller than that, and that's the particle. But in some sense, it kind of echoes, I suppose. There are echoes of the ether, but one of the sort of remarkable things about quantum field theory is it says that we are all part of the same fundamental object. And so like every electron in our bodies is a vibration in the same field. So we are made of physically the same thing, which is all connected through the whole universe. So in that sense, we're all connected to each other directly.
A little bit of New Age at the end of the video, but at least I keep with this idea that, well, we have some echoes of the ether, and because we cannot find any particle. What we call particle is just a minimum amount of energy that you put into a field. It's an excitation of the field, and the field produce maybe what we call matter, and then blah, 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 blah. So I bring that topic to the end. Maybe it's not completely related with gravity, but, you know, this idea of weight, which came from the word gravitas, would mean weight. But what is weight? How have you, if you don't have all these dynamics and forces and push against and repel and things like that, how can you measure? And again, blah 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 bling.
Okay, blah 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 bling. I like it.
Yeah, you like it. I know. I feel it. I feel it at the distance.
You do? Good. Hey, Brian, do you want me to play the video that you have with FTFE on it?
I stop sharing.
Thank you. So make sure that's showing. Brian, do you want me to play the video that you sent me with FTFE on it? I don't hear from Brian, or I'm going to play it just because you sent it to me. We'll go from there.
Attractive force. If you want to know why there's that acceleration depending on mass, if you want to know why, then go and study your masters in physics and beyond and learn about general relativity. But you know what? Even general relativity doesn't give the complete explanation. There's much deeper
They don't really
explanations.
know what gravity is.
No, you're absolutely 100%. We still don't know the absolute reason why mass warps spacetime. We know that there's something to do with an energy exchange, right? But this is the thing. None of that changes the fact that Newtonian physics works, always has and always will, which means that it's never going to be a lie. It's never going to be a lie to tell children you can measure a force created by gravity. That's not a lie. That is a fact. You can measure a force. No, it's not a lie. Because you can measure the force. If you can measure the force, then it's not a lie.
So how do you think they would feel? So say you've got some kids and they learn, gravity's a force, and then later on they learn, oh, no, gravity's not a force. So
hold on. Again, this is something that flat earthers get in their head. Gravity's a force. In Newtonian physics, gravity isn't a force. Gravity creates a force. The force of gravity. Gravity itself isn't a force. Gravity creates the force that we can measure. And it
Well, now I feel dumber. Thanks for that one, Brian.
Yeah. As hard as that was to watch, I wanted to put that in there because this is why I didn't include the globe because, we had at least to put in there as a force and maybe to test. We had Newtonian gravity, but as Craig just put it, it's not even a force, even though. They say that force is an acceleration and it's equal. I mean, so I couldn't even put that in the videos because I certainly couldn't put Einstein's because it has the Earth moving up and pretty much demonstratable, but that couldn't work on a globe because then it'd have to push out in every direction. So, like I said, it pinned me down to Newtonian, and then. And then Craig just said, it's not even a force. So they didn't even make the list out of the ones, the 4 to choose from. The globe didn't even make the cut. I'm sorry to say, man. But that third video finally came through.
Yeah, I got it here. You want me to play that one?
And I couldn't leave Austin out. He's a big part of this. It's the last one. It's not critical, but if you want to play it, it shows how RDD does against the globe. Live time. And debate, and then how electrostatic acceleration does against the globe, and that's about all I was able to put together.
Okay, let me get this one on there, and we will watch this one. So, is that on? Okay, here we go. We're gonna watch this one. Oops, I lost it. Here we go. Nope. This one. Here we go. Now we go.
Out the window and let go. The air below the brick is denser than the air above the brick. So it would be easier for it to move into a less dense area. You said that...
But your potential energy came from which direction? You came from down to up. You took it. You brought it up away from its equilibrium.
Yeah, so there is a down then.
Obviously.
I mean, if I was stood under an arch, arch made of lead, okay, that's denser than the concrete of the pavement. I'm under an arch made of lead. So if I'm holding that brick out, why doesn't it fall then towards the lead? Because that's denser.
Because it's not inside the lid. Inside the lid medium.
Yeah, but what we've got is we've got the medium, the atmosphere, the air, which towards the ground is denser, away from the ground is less dense. So right now we're dropping a brick, it goes towards the more dense. But if we put lead above it, which is a denser medium still, it doesn't fall towards the lead. It still falls towards the...
Do you think that they're doing that on purpose, or are they just dumb?
No, they are dumb.
Okay, just making sure.
Ground.
Because it's not inside the lid. The lid
it's not inside the ground either. It's just inside the air.
The air, exactly. It's denser than the air.
Yeah, it's inside the air.
It took energy to pick it up from the ground, so it's going back to its relative equilibrium.
Let's first look at the problems with density and buoyancy. So the problem number one is things that are more dense and less dense fall at the same rate. And I actually did an experiment with a lead ball and a cue ball. The lead ball was 7 times more dense than the cue ball, and I got up on my ladder and I repeated, and I'll videotape it if anybody wants to see it. And I dropped it again and again and again. They both fell at exactly the same time, every single time.
Identical in size, and the only factor is supposed to be wind resistance. Plain as day.
Second problem with density. Things should fall faster further up as air resistant is as the air is less dense as you go up in altitude. But we know the downward acceleration slightly decreases with altitude.
I wanted to be the first human outside of an aircraft breaking the sound barrier and die.
So this is what happens to people who only look at the mathematics. Now, I'm not going to call Professor Bryant a liar, but I'm going to call him wrong. If I could have found my cue ball, I could have demonstrated that a lead ball falls faster than a cue ball. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say maybe he has
and the point there is that sorry for interrupt.
No problem.
But very quickly, you cannot test at the height of the ladder of a one building floor. You need to go very, very high if you want to.
See I dropped a ping pong ball and a golf ball, and I was on Jose's. I did it live, and they're like, "Well, the golf ball's got dimples and it's aerodynamic." So I literally grinded the dimples, and kept grinding the golf ball until it was the same exact size as the ping pong ball, and I was just about 12 or 14 feet, and the golf ball falls way faster than the ping pong ball, even if you add water and freeze it. But the lead ball falls faster than anything, man. I've got 4 of them, and that's why I said right. I don't know if it's going to play because this is right while we're talking, but I said maybe he was on a step ladder, but I thought maybe he was talking about maybe in a vacuum. But you heard what he said after that. He's saying that objects accelerate toward the ground slower, even though you'd think it'd be faster with less wind resistance. Like, how could he even say that? But yeah, this is crazy. So listen to this when he hits play, man. It's crazy that Professor Bryant claimed this.
Only look at the mathematics. Now, I'm not going to call Professor Bryant a liar, but I'm going to call him wrong. If I could have found my cue ball, I could have demonstrated that a lead ball falls faster than a cue ball. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say maybe he had a step ladder. I'm baffled that this professor is making these claims boldly. His next claim was that if it were buoyancy and density, things at higher altitudes would fall faster due to lower air pressure. That's exactly what we see. But his globe mathematics tell him that things accelerate at the same rate. But I could have used different examples, but I figured I'd show Felix. But not only that, things get heavier the higher we go. I think it's pretty safe to say that whatever you believe or have demonstrated to cause weight or the downward vector, that density and buoyancy play a huge role. Actually, I should specify, it's safe unless you're using the globe mathematical model.
So it's not this magical, consistent 9.81 meters per second squared every time. That isn't true. That's like a misnomer. I don't know why people say it. But yeah, so it's not just density. But whenever there's a density of an object relative to the density of the medium, that's going to determine direction. That buoyant force that's resultant is much stronger than electrostatics. And in fact, of course, it's even stronger than gravity, right? Even in this theoretical idea that there's gravity here, this other type of gravity, because actually gravity means gravitas and weights. Anyway, the buoyant force is stronger. It goes up in.
So there's some catastrophic problems with electrostatics. Shouldn't we be able to step inside a Faraday cage and levitate? I mean, we need to shield electric charges. Why don't objects of different electrical charges and magnetic properties fall at different?
These guys they always do this one. They can't grasp it. It's the same, like, well, if I'm up on a ladder and I let it, why doesn't it go up? It's less, they don't get it. But
rates. I mean, we know this. Different diamagnetic and different, conductors versus insulators. I mean, in electric fields, they would have forces acting on them in different ways. And again, why do magnetic, paramagnetic, and diamagnetic objects all fall at the same rate? So again, you can get a magnet or a non-magnetic object, and gravity will pull.
All objects are diamagnetic.
Electrostatic charges.
See, and this guy is a physics professor. That's scary.
And everything he's just about is false. This is unbelievable. And Austin is. I played these because all of them are straw men, and Austin tears them to oblivion.
Yeah, and the guy disappeared. He's not even on YouTube anymore that I know of. Let me see.
Attractive or repulsive? Gravity is only attractive. So what is the source of this electromagnetic attraction? How does it work if bulk matter is neutral? Electric fields that Austin talked about, they fluctuate wildly, and that at about 30 kilometers, it's almost zero. And we know gravity keeps going beyond 30 kilometers. So it just doesn't work. It doesn't match reality at all. In fact, the electric field changes not only around thunderstorms, but around the time of day and the seasons. So
you can't have density without electrostatics.
So it obviously there's a correlation in density and electrostatics. That's why it's one of the main variables addressed on the chart. But anyway, density itself isn't the full answer. I actually agree with that. Your examples aren't particularly great, though. If you use two different densities and you drop them, well, you drop them from a few feet above the Earth, and they're going to go roughly the same distance down. The primary thing to figure out, what is the determination of the vector? What determines the direction itself? Once it goes down, then, it's agreed upon average. I mean, until you drop something 5 miles in the air in a vacuum chamber, you really don't have much to stand on. And dropping it just a few hundred feet in the air doesn't really mean much. And again, downward acceleration does change drastically. We use gravimeters all over the Earth, and it's different all over the Earth. The downward acceleration of little BB using interferometry. They also have spring-loaded ones. They show different rates, actually. What it does is it sets the bias. So even if we have slight fluctuation in thunderstorms or lightning or whatever, it's very weak. It's very weak. Like when you use a Van de Graaff generator and you make like a little paint chip float or a piece of paper, you can use iron, you can use all kinds of stuff. That's like those little chips are equivalent to like Mount Everest, right? So the point is that it's very, 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 very weak. It just sets the up and down. That's why you wouldn't see much of a change in downward acceleration, because it would have to be such a drastic manipulation and variance to get any type of difference. But that's not the question. The question is like what actually causes it to go up and down. And there is no problem with electrostatics other than it's not strong enough to make the Earth spin around. And you said something about at a certain height, right? Like, so you're talking about like at a certain height it drops off. I don't believe any fairy tales above 50, 60 miles or anything like that. But all of it has electrostatics. Even in the globe paradigm, they claim there's something called the ionosphere. And that it starts right at around 40 miles. They say 40 to 50 miles to like 400 miles, which we don't believe stories past 60, 70 miles at all. But the main thing with that is, that was the first time ever that was claimed. Maxwell actually changed his equations, right, to say that you could have electrostatics without matter, because you can't. You can't have electrostatic induction or electrostatics without matter, and they made up the ionosphere to basically save the globe. But the primary point here is we have equipotential increase from the surface up, and that creates a downward flow. And the only way to have that is to have two Gaussian surfaces. So what we know we have on the Earth has to be there because of two Gaussian surfaces, and that is 10 to the 36 power stronger than gravity claims to be. So I don't know why it's so hard for people to accept it, but it just is what it is. And this is why it's not discovered on the quantum scale at all. There's no evidence for gravity on the quantum scale at all. It doesn't work. It's incompatible. The relativity doesn't work at all on the quantum scale. But we know that there's electrostatics there. It's everywhere. And a Faraday cage does not block electrostatics. Sure, it can stop like electromagnetism. It doesn't stop electrostatics. The cage itself is electrostatics. The air inside of it's electrostatics. Whatever objects are in there are still electrostatic. There's still electrostatic induction. And no matter how much you try to neutralize it, like on the very smallest scale, right, which you can't remove it, because if you removed it, you wouldn't have the matter in the first place. On the very smallest scale, it's 10 to the 36 power stronger than gravity claims to be. 9.8 meters per second squared is agreed upon average. It doesn't happen every time. Objectively, it doesn't happen every time. It changes. It's just an agreed upon average. It fluctuates. But we use that convention so that we can build things like bridges, etc. You can replace little g with the letter A, acceleration. You don't need it. We want to say we have a dependent variable and naturally occurring observable phenomena. Things go down. Things go up and down. So things have direction or different vectors. So what causes something to go down? Well, let's figure it out. Everything that goes down or up, everything that exists in the world is electrostatic. So all molecular and intermolecular attractive forces are electrostatic in nature. So anything going up or down is electrostatic. So let's manipulate the variable of electrostatics and see if it can actually affect the direction something goes. It does, objectively. Things go up and down relative to the electrostatics. The electrostatic field, you have electrostatic induction that goes to the object, and that relationship will cause things to go up and or down. We have all kinds of things that happen in nature that show us this. In fact, bumblebees actually levitate over flowers, and seeing as they accumulate positive charge, which there's actually no such thing as positive and negative charge. You have charge and discharge. It's a convention. There's nothing negative in nature, but that's a different conversation. So it gets positive charge in the air. It floats over the flower that has negative charge, and the pollen will actually levitate up to the bee and stick to it. Clouds, of course, are electrostatic, and then based on the charges in the clouds, that's when eventually the water will come down, right? So based on density and buoyancy alone, or based on gravity alone, there's no reason for those clouds to be up there sitting the way that they do. Now they just claim that it's basically counteractive. Whenever you talk about the Cavendish and you said that they control the variable of electrostatics, in fact, whenever Cavendish first did his experiment, he didn't even account for electrostatics.
Okay, great. Go ahead, Brian.
I think his mind's going to explode.
If it gets any more information in there, it might. But to be
yeah, of course.
All right, Brian, where do you want to go from here?
Yeah, so I just wanted to, everything's acting up like crazy. So I hope you can hear me, man. Just let me know if I start breaking up, man, and I'll try and do something about it.
Right now, you're okay.
Trying to go information heavy, man, and I was trying to cover as many straw men as I could, so everybody could look at everything fairly and stop calling each other idiots and everything. So I was feeling all '60s hippie, and just thinking, I got to thinking that even if it was a type of acceleration, which we can, I mean, if we're being honest, we can demonstrate it in any direction, we can, and so just being fair and considering it. But even then, still, you couldn't do it without the electrostatics and obviously the density, disequilibrium. And so there's a possibility, granted a small one, there is a possibility that it's all three or four, all three of them are actually a part of our reality, and we're arguing and infighting and stuff. And just the fact that that's even possible, that all three sides could be right and just literally disrespecting each other. I mean, not anybody on this panel, but in the community as a whole, So I wanted to put all this stuff together, and I need a minute, but the last thing would be to list and go over the couple straw men that weren't covered.
All right, glad you can get that ready, and I'll just talk for a minute about that. But we're going to go over to Rockfin right now, so I'm going to put the link in the YouTube chat. Thank you guys for being here. We do appreciate it, but we can actually talk like big boys over at Rockfin, so we're going to go over there. We're going to kind of iron some of these out, get the Zach's impression. I'll give you my opinion on which one. We'll get Brian's opinion, and we will see if we can reach a conclusion. But I do agree with Brian that I don't see why all the infighting needs to happen. I don't know why anybody would feel so confident in themselves that they could stand up and call other people names about these things, when we know that what we believe today is much different than we believed last year, and what we believed last year was much different than we believed the year before. So what that describes is a process of getting closer and closer to the truth and ironing things out and looking at different options. So to close your mind and say it's this and only this, and anybody else saying anything else is a crazy person, and is the definition of being closed-minded. It's the definition of being dogmatic. It's the definition of not having an open mind. So I don't want to be that. The reason I got into these conspiracies or flat earth especially is it's okay to have an open mind. It's okay to iron some things out. It's okay to disagree with people and to try and get better arguments until there's one that suffices you, or that, makes you feel better about whatever belief you have. So we'll talk about those over there. I'll kind of go through my process of what my beliefs have been at first and then till now, and we'll get the other guys too. So come on over.
Can I say one quick thing?
Sure.
Before we leave? I don't see the numbers that we should be getting over on Rockfin. So anybody who doesn't know how to do it, you hit GLOBEBUSTERS on your screen, hit where it says GLOBEBUSTERS, like the channel. Just hit the literal name GLOBEBUSTERS, and then it'll say more just off to the bottom right of that, and click more, and then it'll give you a bunch of like links and show notes, and then just click where it says Rockfin, and it's free and all that. Just 2 clicks of a button, and you're still with us.
Okay, let me see here. I don't know why my link is not going in there.
Huh?
I didn't hear you.
I'm saying you'd be surprised how many people don't go.
Oh no, I mean, it's kind of crazy. It's how many do we have? We have 303 watching here, and we've got on Rockfin 129. So it'd be nice if we even have, if half the people came over from GLOBEBUSTERS. I mean, I'm from YouTube, so that'd be 150. So Rockfin, we should be able to get to 300. I think so. And yeah, it's free. Come aboard and come over and say hi. And you just have to get an account if you want to chat. But yep, so I'm going to put that one more time.
We have 2 dislikes on Rockfin, so we are in the good track, man.
I love it. We love the dislikes. So great. Okay, there we go. So I put that in the chat, and we'll see you guys over there. Thank you very much for being here. We'll see you next week again. 12 noon Pacific for another episode of GLOBEBUSTERS. Till then, peace. Okay, we are done there. GLOBEBUSTERS.